Drive is one of those films that flies over most people's heads, and most of these people keep saying that that is literally them, and idolize characters such as Driver or other characters from similar films. For example, Travis Bickle, who I did a video on not too long ago. What we're idolizing is trauma disguised as masculine bravado. Allow me to prove this theory. From the beginning of the film, Driver is depicted as a man of few words who lives in solitude. He rarely speaks unless he has to or is forced to. A common characteristic of people with depression or some sort of trauma, I believe. Driver and Will Hunting from the film Good Will Hunting are good examples and comparisons of traumatic people as their polar opposites. Will talks a lot, jokes a lot, and tries to use humor, insults, and the company of his friends and his academic genius to deter people from seeing his wounded spirit. Driver, on the other hand, has built a wall around himself, where he uses silence and isolation to hide his wounded past and his identity. He rarely shows any emotions, thus it's safe to say that he suppresses a lot, if not all, of his emotions. However, unlike Will, who we understand what happened to him, we really have no clue of what happened to Driver. However, I kinda do, and I kinda have an idea. After reading the book Drive by James Sully, which the film is based off of, we get a glimpse into Driver's past. Starting with Driver's relationship with his father, the book describes it as a toxic and manipulative relationship where Driver's father only found use for him during his burglary missions, where the book says, and I quote, "Up till the time Driver got his growth at about 12, he was small for his age, an attribute on which his father made full use of. The boy would fit easily through small openings, bathrooms, windows, pet doors, and so on, making him a considerable helpmate during his father's trade, which happened to be burglary." It also went on to describe how after Driver grew older and bigger, his father had no use for him and his mother, so it's safe to say he grew up with an estranged father who used and manipulated him throughout his childhood. The book also described the traumatic domestic violence incident he witnessed between his father and mother, where the book says, and I quote, "So Driver was surprised when one night at the dinner table she went after his old man with butcher and bread knives, one on each fist, like a ninja in a red checked apron. She had one ear off, a wide red mouth drawn in his throat before he could set his coffee cup down." So it's safe to say, allegedly he watched his mother kill his dad, as this thought is never discussed in detail throughout the book. After this experience and the fact that Driver's mother was mentally unstable, the state shipped him off to foster care in Tucson, Arizona, where he lived in the attic of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, who, according to the book and what I gathered, his foster family didn't really connect with him or care too much about Driver. The reason I say this is because of this, and I quote, "The Smiths in Tucson, who right up till the day he left registered surprise whenever he came through the front door or emerged from the tiny attic room where he lived like a ran. Driver also didn't have any connection to his foster family as he packed up all his things once he turned 16, stole their car, and moved to Los Angeles. There was no goodbye or looking back. He just left and moved on with his life. The reason I say this is that he lived with the Smiths for more than 2 years, according to the book. And this was the note he left once he left, and I quote, "I'm sorry about the car, but I have to have wheels. I've taken nothing else. Thank you for taking me in. For everything you've done, I mean that." End of quote. So to answer the questions of all the fans, this is how Driver made it to Los Angeles. Now that we have context regarding Driver's traumatic past, we can now analyze some scenes from the film to see if he's the peak of masculinity or just another traumatized man trying to survive in a world that doesn't care. Let's start with Driver's famous line.
"I don't sit in while you're running it down. I don't carry a gun. I drive.
What Driver does best is drive. What Driver likes to do is drive. Why is he so obsessed with driving? As a car guy myself, I understand the fellowship between man and machine, but from the book and the film, Driver takes it to a special level. You might think driving was a sign of freedom from his past or problems, but when you look at it closely, that was the only place he had control. Like a controlling parent trying to rewrite their mistakes through their children. A bodybuilder who's hyperfixated with the size of each muscle group on his body and is obsessed with what they eat, counting each macro to the last calorie to the point of insanity. or an Instagram model who's obsessed with how they look, so they embark on their journey into the world of silicone and lip fillers, and all their pictures have to go through hours of editing to show the world their flawless lifestyle and physiques. What do all these people have in common? They're all fixated with control, and what they do becomes a distraction or some form of vindication from their past traumas. Maybe when they were young, they couldn't control what happened to them, and this made them experience fear. So now they found something to give them a sense of security through control. This hyper-focus is a classic trauma coping strategy where Driver's trying to outrun his own psyche. Let's talk about Driver's silence. Throughout the film, Driver rarely talks. Even to the woman he likes, he only smiles and glances at her here and there throughout the film. My question is it his masculine stoic nature or emotional suppression? First, stoicism is described as changing what you can control and accepting what you can't, while emotional suppression is described as the act of pushing emotions down, ignoring, denying, or bottling them up. So sometimes we might mistake a silent guy for a stoic, but if you look deeper, he's fighting demons. In Driver's case, his muteness reflects a dissociative state common in trauma survivors. Irene and Driver's relationship represents an escape for Driver from his troubled life. Irene isn't just a love interest, she's a symbol of domestic peace. The riverbed scene with Irene and Benicio is the only time we see Driver smile genuinely. The scene where he's seated with Benicio watching TV like a father and son was another scene that I believe was a source of joy for Driver, where he genuinely smiles and engages with another human being at a personal level. When Standard comes back from prison, the escape is shattered and his chance for a normal life is lost, so back into the darkness he went. If you take a Coke bottle and shake it vigorously, what happens after you open it? It bursts open, right? However, when a man suppresses his anger, his resentment, and bottles up all these negative traumatic emotions for a long period of time, what will happen? We get this elevator scene where we saw a perfect picture of who Driver really was. For once, he snapped. All that composure went out the door. All that masculine brooding silence was shattered, and the mask slipped. You see, violence is the language of the wounded, is what I would use to describe Driver's life. Think of an injured lion. That lion will be more aggressive compared to a normal lion, hence attacking anyone, sometimes even when it's unprovoked. Have you ever heard the words, "I can save her, I can fix her," or "I'll love her more than she has ever been loved"? Well, been there, done that, and so has Driver. Those are the words of an emotionally wounded and abandoned person. Driver helping Standard and Irene is because of one of two reasons, or both. One, he helped Standard because Standard is a mirror of what he could have been. He's not saving Standard, he's trying to rewrite his own story through someone else's redemption arc. It's noble, but that's unresolved guilt. You see, Standard is a flawed man trying to go straight for his family. The Driver sees this and he inserts himself into the narrative as a fixer. Two, his acts of protection are attempts of leaving a mark so he can matter, like a hero in a movie. Think of Batman. Evil caused him trauma, so he dresses up as a bat and fights evil, with an effort to inspire people to do the right thing, because according to Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight Begins, Bruce Wayne says, and I quote, "As a man, I'm flesh and blood. I can be ignored, I can be destroyed, but as a symbol, I can be incorruptible, I can be everlasting." After killing Bernie, he doesn't return to Irene. He drives off into the distance, bleeding and alone. He maybe believes his only worth is in his sacrifice. That's not masculinity, that's martyrdom rooted in emotional abandonment. Driver in the film has no name, no backstory, no future. He's a ghost. He's credited only as Driver. His only identity is what he's good at, and that is driving. He has no family, no origin, no destination. This absence of identity is a hallmark of trauma. He's not a man with a mission. He's a man trying to survive in the shadows, scraping by with what he can get. In a world where young men lack identity today due to the lack of fathers and positive role models, I now finally understand why everyone keeps saying that this is literally them. Thanks for watching, catch you next time, and always remember to keep trekking, fam. Hey there, check out this video about how you can win your inner battles featuring Samurai Jack.